Very pleased now to be joined here at SB Nation and Blogging the Boys by the one and only, the dashing, debonair, recurring guest. I don't know if he's still holding on strong to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We touched on that last time. It is from Covers, Jason Logan. Jason, yeah, I mean, Marvel. We back in. we buying all the Tom Holland, TikToks that are floating around.
Big time. My son is a massive Spider-Man fan and it was one of those things where it's like, he has phases, like our other kid had phases of things that he liked, but ever since he could basically walk, it's been Spider-Man. And it helps that they perpetuate the Spider-Man thing all the time, but super jacked up for the new Spider-Man movie. And I went and saw Fantastic Four last week. And,
how was it?
Pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely an original take. And the one thing I did like about it is that it was accessible to everyone, because you didn't have to watch like this TV show and watch this post-credit scene and have to know all the ins and outs of the Marvel thing. I thought it was really well done. It was a lot of fun. Could have done for a little more stretchy action from Mr. Fantastic, but it was good. It was pretty good. On par with Superman, I felt.
I liked the original. So I mean the 2000s one. But it was great. I don't get a chance to brag about this a lot, but when No Way Home came out, it's like I think we all have something that we avoided spoilers on. Like my cousin went a week without finding out what happened in the Red Wedding, which was I always find to be like amazing. So that wasn't mine. But you mentioned your son. My son was in the NICU at the time. He was there for 2 months. He's a happy, healthy 3-year-old boy, thank God now. But we didn't want to go to the movies. It was 2021, still being kind of, careful and whatnot. And so I waited. And obviously we all kind of thought what was going to happen in No Way Home was what was going to happen. But I waited and avoided any like confirmation that it happened.
Tough.
So shout out to me.
That is tough. And I remember because there was like some strain of COVID that was going, like it just peaked that week that No Way Home came out, and we had bought advance tickets and we were psyched to go. And then it got worse and worse, and we were like, maybe we don't go to the movies. So I had to tell him, and he's, he would have been like, I don't know, 6 at the time.
Oh,
I was like, buddy, we're not going to Spider-Man right now. And it was some of the most heartbreaking things I've had to do as a father. But anyway, that kudos to you, because that's really tough. I was able to avoid the Fantastic Four spoilers. I was on vacation, so I wasn't looking at my phone and was just kind of off doing my own thing with my family. So I was able to avoid a lot of that and was able to enjoy the movie without knowing too much.
I'm happy to hear that, and I'm happy that you're on vacation. You're back and you're working. You have your Dallas Cowboys betting preview out. Last time you were on, we talked about the Cowboys. Obviously, you're a Cowboys fan. The work it covers is fantastic, and so I want to. I told you before we started recording that I had something I wanted to push back on, and I want to be very clear. I mentioned this off camera, but this isn't because I'm going to sit here and be like, this team's winning the Super Bowl this year, Jason. Like, I think we both would admit that that's probably not going to happen. And there's a lot of self-induced, situations that inhibit that whole idea and goal. But I'm not a betting expert, but I consider myself a Dallas Cowboys expert, at least a Dallas Cowboys narrative expert. And so the first thing you have when you pull up your Dallas Cowboys betting preview, under best bets is the under on 8.5 wins, which is at -150 right now. I'll let you state your case before I dive in.
All right. Okay. First off, just the defense is,
and that's the theme of your
wasn't
your
good.
Preview.
Yeah, it is very. It's very much is that underlying the defense. It was terrible last year. They did very little to plug it up, other than hoping guys don't get hurt. But if you look at that defense, I mean, the Parsons thing is going on. Like, will he be there? Will he play? Will they trade him? The secondary is an absolute mess. And then the linebacking core was also missing some pieces too, still waiting for guys to get back. I don't believe they have the gusto on defense to keep pace, especially when you got to play the Eagles twice and the Washington Commanders twice, and you're staring down one of the toughest schedules out there. You got Green Bay on there. You've got an improved Denver team with a nasty defense. The back half of that schedule is just ridiculous. Like, you go Philly, KC, Detroit, Minnesota, and Chargers, Washington. Like, that's week 12 through to week 17. And then they throw the Thanksgiving cram in there, which is 3 games in 10 days. The offensive line, to me, is not what it used to be, not very reliable. I haven't even touched on the running game or the lack of running game that I believe will be there. Even though, Schottenheimer's like, we want to run the ball, which seems like it's something on repeat every year. It's like, we want to run the ball. Well, maybe you shouldn't have got rid of Dowdle, or maybe you should have hung on to Tony Pollard, things that, actually did work when you wanted to run the ball. Yeah. So I think things could snowball quickly. They have a very, very tough start. Like they play, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 of their first 6 on the road. And, there could be a losing culture with this team right off the bat.
So a lot of what you said.
Another thing is too, and one that as a Cowboys fan, which they've usually been a solid home team and have also been a really solid home bet. And this year, I believe they're an underdog in 6 of their 8 home games, which is really saying something because they have been a solid home team going back a long time. And to see them as an underdog in 6 of their 8 home games this year was a big red flag for me.
So there's a lot to this, and that's why I wanted to start here, because I knew there would be some kind of tentacles of it that I wanted to get into. First of all, these are always well done and best done when they're done by a fan of the team in question. So you're a Cowboys fan here. As an example, you have a note here because you talked about the 3 games in 10 days around Thanksgiving. Most people wouldn't, but you noted like this is this is normal for them. Like this happens. There's the Monday night game against the Raiders that slightly adjusts that this year, but ultimately, the point is that most people they'll say that, and then we have to kind of rebut and be like, yeah, well, they literally do this every year, so let's just kind of calm down.
They don't often play Kansas City.
No, totally agreed.
So that's a little compounded by the competition that's coming there. And then it's a big look ahead spot because then they go and play Detroit at Detroit the next Thursday. And, depending on where they are in this division and how things trickle out, like maybe they're in playoff contention, but they're a favorite in only 6 games this year. And so as a bettor and a Cowboys fan, it's rare to see that.
You mentioned Detroit, and I maintain, and again, this does not come from we need to respect the Cowboys. You need to put respect on the Cowboys name standpoint. But I maintain that nationally, the Cowboys don't necessarily get evaluated objectively. Just there's so much, meme and joke and headline to kind of, parse through that most people just kind of pluck the low hanging fruit. And so I think a lot of times, I don't mean in any way to dilute what the process is of coming up with these bets. But a lot of it is reflective of what last season was to some degree, right? And that there's value in that and whatnot. So at what point, independent of the Cowboys, and I thought of the Lions as a good example, at what point does it take for a team to kind of establish themselves before, like you mentioned, being an underdog in all those home games? Like, and what is it like after week 4? Like once there's like, what's the sample size that's required for the dominoes to fall and everything to kind of adjust and change?
Sure. So when do we actually get to see what they are?
Yeah, at what point do you feel comfortable looking down?
Yeah. I mean, week 1 results, I'm throwing them out the window. No matter how good or bad a team is, I'm not going to put a whole lot of cloud in that. I would say probably, and it also depends on how the schedule is too, because you have some teams like the Giants are going to start road heavy. Like it's like Washington at Dallas, right? And then it's and then they kind of get to play some home games. I would say usually 4 weeks is, when you start saying, okay, this team is what it is. But again, it's all context. Like, are they starting? Look at like Baltimore last year, right? Brand new defensive coordinator. They had Mike Macdonald. They were historically like one of the greatest defenses of all time. The year before that, 60 plus sacks, like just an insane defense. They lose that coordinator. Or is the new coordinator. It took some time for that group to gain traction. And it could be the same thing with Dallas. I mean, 3 coordinators in 3 years. Letting Dan Quinn walk, and I think we talked about this last time, was like the worst decision you could have made. Like they should have let McCarthy go. Quinn inherits that team. You keep that culture. You keep that defense. Like that defense was so rah-rah, and the locker room around Quinn was so fantastic. And he elevated guys. And I think that's why Washington was able to have quick success, because he was able to elevate guys. And I think Washington this year, while I don't think they're going to be I think they will improve on defense. He'll lift guys up because of his schemes and just who he is. So I feel like, that's gone from the Cowboys team that was there 2 years ago.
So in the 17-game era, which is now going on year 5, we have never seen the Cowboys win 8 games exactly. So they've never gone 8-9. Again, that doesn't mean anything, but I bring that up to say a stat I used to say with great pride when I was younger and naive was that I don't know if we talked about this last time, but the Tony Romo has in his career never played a game where he was mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. It's cool. It means nothing, but it's kind of interesting. It kind of generates that exact response. Now, some of that was the years he was injured. He got lost for the season at the right time, to where he avoided that becoming a reality. But that being said, Dak Prescott has only done so once in his career, which was in 2017. But even then, they finished 9-7 that year. The Cowboys did, and so I bring that all up to say, like, this is not a team that that is mathematically eliminated when you're doing your Christmas shopping. You know what I mean? And winning, hitting the under on 8.5, would suggest that would suggest that they do kind of. Again, I'm in no way, Jason, saying like, dude, get down to Dallas. The Super Bowl parade is happening in February. But like you kind of can generally set your watch by the fact that they are going to be in the mix, which to me would suggest when this line first came out across other sports books, it was at 7.5 when the schedule first came out. It's bumped up obviously to 8.5. I love that's my favorite bet. I don't mean to oppose you so directly, but that's my favorite bet because that's not who they are. They are good enough to be in the conversation, which is kind of what they pride themselves on.
Yeah, it's just that second half of the
schedule. They won 7 games last year with Dak missing over half the season. You know what I mean? Like, I agree objectively with everything that you're saying, but I feel like, Dak is worth, 2 wins at the very least on top of the games they lost last year.
And I am very, if you read the preview, I am very positive Dak. Right. And if they sniff the playoffs, it is because of Dak Prescott, and hopefully the offensive line can keep him healthy. And I believe he's going to have a big statistical year because he has to, because I feel like they're going to be trailing in a lot of games. I feel like they're not going to be able to run the football. And you add the George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb combo, and it was basically Dak and CeeDee last year for those 7 games, and it was honestly it was enough most games to kind of keep them competitive. So I really feel like I'm with you on Dak Prescott, and but it's everything else
Dak
around
lines
him.
You have. What is your favorite of these that we have on the screen here? Again,
so I did if you read the preview, I did take an over. I think it was over 26.5 passing touchdowns. Like we said last year, it was really him and CD, and he threw 11 touchdowns in his 7 games before he got hurt. The year before, of course, he had that MVP-esque season. Was it like 36 touchdowns or something silly like that? Like a fantastic year. Like I said, situationally, I think they're going to be trailing. They're going to need him to pass. He doesn't have the running backs to kind of back him up. And then if you look at some of the other futures out there, like he's 3rd behind Burrow and Mahomes to lead the league in passing, which is saying something. I'm not confident, maybe not so confident that he leads the league in passing, but I mean, if he's throwing the ball as much as they think he's going to be throwing the ball, the passing touchdowns will come. And I looked at Schottenheimer's success as a play caller. Now this has been his offense, but he hasn't had to call plays. I looked at his success in the red zone when he was calling the plays for Seattle. And in each of those 3 years, they were a top 10 team in terms of red zone touchdown percentage. So he knows how to get in there, which has been kind of a bugaboo with this team for a long, long time. Like Jason Garrett couldn't get it into the end zone to save his life there for some seasons. And I think those things will kind of lift Dak up as long as the offensive line can keep him upright. Because once teams figure out that they can't run the football, they're going to be coming. So you don't want to get in any long yardage situations.
I promise I'm not the loser trying to like beat the house. So like don't take this question from that perspective, but what lines can you draw from one odd placement to another? Like, because instinctively, I agree with you in terms of having questions about the Cowboys defense generally, but then you look at Dak's 3rd to lead the league in passing. That would suggest a requirement, a need to pass a lot. And obviously, you've got Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow in the mix as well. But so like, what is the most like, what has something baked into it in your experience that you can look and say, look, odds makers believe this, that in and of itself suggests X, Y, and Z?
I mean, look at overs. I mean, if we've got an offense that can move the chains through the air, that means big gains. If they have success scoring And odds makers believe that this guy is going to be able to pass the ball as much as, on par with a Burrow or a Mahomes, or maybe slightly less than those guys. Then why not the over, especially when we talk about how bad the defense has been. Like last year, they went 11-6 in terms of their totals. I think they can continue to be an over bet, an over team. And home overs have been a big, that's been a trend with them for a long time. I mentioned that in the article as well, too. The home overs from 2020 to 2024, 64% overs in Cowboys home games. It's a fast track. You got a bad defense. You got an offense that wants to throw the football. It all kind of, the maths up on that one. So I think overs could be something that you want to look at in Cowboys games.
I don't mean to put you on the spot if you don't have this information accessible to you, but what is the win total you've looked at for Kansas City and Cincinnati? I'm just kind of curious what that line of delineation is for the passers that have the three best, odds to lead the league in passing.
Yeah, sure. So with Cincinnati, you can play different ones, but kind of their standard win total right now is 9.5 with a -110 on either side of that. It's a 9.5. Yeah. And then with Kansas City, I happen to have these like right in front of me, which is great. Kansas City, you're looking at 11.5. Now there is a little more vig. It's -130 on the under. Over 11.5 paying right now at even money. That's at Bet365. Different books are going to have different odds, of course. So shop around and try to find the best number for your opinion. But that's the numbers that I have in front of me right now. So Cincy looking at 10 wins, Kansas City looking at about 11 wins.
So is it homerish? Is it like head in the sand for me to, try to draw the conclusion of, okay, well, if Dak is thought to be in this territory of, and passing yardage does not equate wins, like to be very clear, but we all understand this, but is it the wildest reach ever to say he's in this, perceived to be in this territory? Maybe the over on 8.5 makes more sense in that, that particular sense. Although obviously he could have, 400 yards a game and they're just losing every single one of them.
They could be the Cincinnati Bengals of last year. So that's who I point to is Cincinnati. Like, yeah, and it could be some crushing, heartbreaking losses that we stumble into when you have a defense that can't. And the big thing too last year was that they couldn't stop the run. I don't know if they're that much better at stopping the run this year. And if they can't, that allows opponents to control tempo. It can allow them to control the football and really limit the amount of damage that Dak and CD and Pickens can do out there. And so, in turn, it's, offense by defense by some of those offenses as well, too, if they can run the ball like they did on Dallas last year.
I'm not a betting expert by any stretch, as is well established here, but I get asked a lot, Dallas Cowboys general questions. And so a lot of times it's, well, what do you, this offseason has been following the draft, what do you like on CD this year? What do you like on his lines, his props, whatever? And I'm so hesitant to take any kind of over just because of George Pickens' presence. Now, maybe that's an archaic mindset relative to this. I'm curious, like what that process is for you. Like, there is only one ball. Like even if Dak does have this massive, individual season, if the defense is bad, like that obviously lends to more passing, like we've been discussing. But does the presence of George Pickens make you a little bit more gun shy to take any kind of CD overs just because Pickens has to eat as well?
In this particular, I think there's going to be enough balls to go around if you like the over on both of those. Like where he's the third overall choice to lead the league in receiving. Like it's not always going to be CD, but CD is good enough, as we've seen, to really carry this offense like he was last year.
Who are 1 and 2, if you don't mind me asking?
For
leading the league in receiving.
Oh, yeah. Just give me a second, and I will pull those.
I'll vamp while you do, because I'm curious if Jamar Chase isn't in there, because Burrow is in the top 3 to lead the league in passing. Obviously, there's no cheat.
So your receiving yards leaders are Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, Thomas Jr., and then CD is plus 1,200. So Nico Collins is plus 1,000. CD Lamb is plus 1,200. So Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, again, it's the JJ McCarthy dude, fantastic receiver. Right. Can he lift up another quarterback? And I was a big fan of Sam Darnold heading into that season anyway. But like Nacua, I think Nacua is only as good as Matt Stafford's back. And so, I think I said in one of my previews, like they're keeping his back together with good vibes and hot glue right now.
Right. Like just in California sun. No, I'm totally with you. Like like, so just to kind of tell you where my brain is jumping to is, we can discern, like I'm saying, if we're trying to, sniff out the clues, if you will, we can discern that it's believed that the Cowboys will have one of the best passers in the NFL, one of the best receivers in the NFL, and that they're somewhat unique in this sense. Now, to your point, they could be the Cincinnati Bengals who have a presence in this exact same metric as well. And again, I would offer that first of all, I would take the under on, or I would not take Mahomes to lead the league in passing. I would, if you could get that line, I would certainly take that. But and some of that is circumstantial, like football's won a billion different ways. But it takes me back to, I just can't imagine, although the Bengals do exist, having one of the best passers and best receivers in the NFL from an output standpoint and not having 9 wins. It's difficult to achieve that, but the Cowboys are masters of that specific thing.
Yeah. And looking at the schedule too, like I said, once you get to like week 12, you're looking at a lot of really good two-way teams that are not only fantastic offenses, but have fantastic defenses, like very good pass rushes, like Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, the Chargers, and Washington, if you think that defense improves. But just that Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, and Chargers, like, you're just hoping Dak survives that stretch of football right there, based on the pressure that those defenses can bring and what you're going to see from some of those coordinators. And then I also, like, it's Schottenheimer, a lot of experience,
totally
first-year head coach, matching wits with a lot of really, really good head coaches during this schedule.
So I don't know your own betting practices and whatnot, but if you hedge your bet, right? Because you've said that one of your favorite bets is the under on 8.5 wins. Okay, cool. But if you hedge that, what direction do you go? Do you take them to win the Super Bowl outright? Like, are you like, I want the biggest lottery ticket possible, or do you hedge that and say, and I'm curious what you mentioned, context matters. Obviously, the division hasn't had a repeat champion in over 20 years, which doesn't mean anything, but also is like a large enough sample size to kind of be worth, just thinking about one time. So like, if you hedge the under 8.5 with one of these lines, whether it was to win the NFC East or win the NFC finally or whatever, what is it and why? Just so you were protected on both sides. You know what I mean? That's the thought process here.
Well, with the a minus 150 on an under, I've got to go relatively large with another one. I mean, if I just want to split hairs and not earn any money, you could take them to finish third, maybe second in the division, if Washington maybe falls off the face of the earth, but I don't expect them to. Yeah. I mean,
so you mentioned in here
playoffs
that you almost, I'm trying to find it now.
I almost took their fourth to finish fourth.
That's what it is. And your line was, but that would be mean putting my faith in that four-headed monster under center in East Rutherford. I'm an Arizona State Sun Devil, and so I firmly believe that Cam Scatterboo can save them all. But but that's neither here nor there. But again, context is interesting. That's why discussions like this with people like you are so interesting to me. So, okay, you want to take them on, under 8.5 wins, fine. I would argue the best balance, if you are trying to hedge it, and maybe you can offer your thoughts here, is to win the division because it hasn't had a repeat champion. I don't know how much stock you put into that. I think if anyone were to defy that, it would certainly be this year's Eagles. There's zero doubt about that. Washington 8-1 in one possession games last year. It's fair to assume there will be some regression to the mean, and the Giants are who you mentioned them to be. So you don't have to squint inordinately hard to see a world where Dallas wins the division. You do have to squint, obviously, but I think that's, to answer my own question, I think that's the hedge. Like, that's how you protect yourself for both ends of the spectrum.
So if you read my Washington preview, which I think I did yesterday, that's kind of where I immediately went, was like, are they good because they're lucky, or are they lucky because they're good?
Right.
And last year, that was the thing amongst the betting community, was just like, they keep defying all these things that are very tough to replicate. They keep converting on third and fourth downs. They keep having all these fourth quarter comebacks. They keep winning all these tight games. But they just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And everyone was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it didn't really drop until, the playoffs, when you had lost all your money betting against Washington. And there will be some regression expected, especially with how tough the schedule is. And the Eagles play a very, very hard schedule. Washington plays a very hard schedule. The Giants got gifted the worst schedule in the world, and Dallas also plays it. So there's some commonality there, where it's going to be a tough task for all these teams, and the grinds and the demands of that schedule are going to be there. The Eagles specifically have just this nasty clump of tight windows where they're playing like 4 games in 18 days and they play, I think it's like 8 games in 30 something days. So it's, every 4.75 days plus travel. So like even just getting regular practice times in are going to be very, very tough during that stretch. So there's definitely things that oppose like regression for Washington and this back end schedule for the Eagles that could change things up. And maybe Dallas, is able to sneak in and win the division. They don't have the same roster. They don't have the same talent on the table like a Washington right now or Philly, and nor do they have the coaching either. So
2 last ones for you. The first one's much more simple. The second one's a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
As a betting expert, we're talking on Thursday, August the 14th, and one who's a Dallas Cowboys fan, how much is the current state of the Micah Parsons situation a factor for you? Your answer can be a little, not at all, like you assume this gets done, etc. I'm just curious, as someone who's assigning making money to this, how much you seriously consider this, especially given the context of the history that we know exists with the Cowboys, that it always gets done.
And most times it does get done now. And I think the latest from Jerry, I always check this every morning. I'm like, what's the deal with Parsons? I think Jerry was saying like they expect him to play week 1, even if the contract's not done. Part of me actually wants him to trade him and just be like, can we just get some draft stock here? Like he's absolutely a transformative player and I don't want him gone. But like, if we've reached this impasse, then let's get something out of it. And get something good. But I mean, I expect him to play. I did bet Philly -6.5. It's gone to 7. I would say the Parsons trouble has maybe added a half point to that. And if he does sign, I think maybe we'll see this go back down to 6.5. It's not why I played it, trying to get ahead of any,
that answers impact. If that's not why, then that answers the question.
No, I expect him to be there. I just don't know if he's going to be enough to cover that spread and keep.
Last one. If you had to assemble a parlay of sorts right now for the, I mean, it's a dangerous, line to walk. You can make it as long as you want. But kind of, I think we've floated through different planets in orbit. My son loves the planets, so they're always on the top of my mind. Where would, because again, I think based on our discussion, it would be the over on Dak's passing, the under on wins, like those things line up with one another conventionally. Like if you had to build one, what would it look like and why?
For week 1, I guess.
For whatever you want, it could be.
All right. Well, I'll just look at. I'll look at the week. I'll look at the week 1, the Philly and Dallas thing. So, like I said, I took Philly -6.5. I could lay the touchdown too. It's but I would say like Philly. I would say CeeDee Lamb to score a touchdown anytime in that game.
Okay.
And I would probably take the over as well. It's at 46.5. I would take the over as well on that one.
That's good advice, and I lied because I do have one last one. But last time you offered the great note about baseball players and traveling and getting home, that was so cool. You talked about, it was kind of an old adage. What is I thought of this because you brought up the anytime touchdown score. What is a prop or something that you just avoid at all costs? Like you're just like, I don't, maybe because some people are like, I don't want anytime touchdown score that's too specific. Like, what is something that you're just like, no, I've had too many bad experiences. That's a sucker's bet. What is that one specific thing?
I don't know if that's tough. That's tough because there's so many betting options on the board now. Those sort of things are just wild. I mean, don't get marred in the heavy money line parlay type stuff. Like you always see those like, Baltimore's playing Cleveland and they're a 7.5 point favorite at home. I'm just going to take them on the money line and down with the money line and money line. I'm not a giant, huge money line parlay kind of guy. I mean, I guess that would be maybe the best thing to avoid.
We're looking for the things that like we think are the sure thing, but that you're like, trust me, I know better. I've walked that walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I see too many people walk that walk nowadays. That's what they're selling. The other thing too is I would say, while we do partner with sports books, don't just jump and take their promoted parlays because there's certain things that are kind of, it looks fantastic in terms of like, oh, it's plus 1,200 if this, but I'm like, they're selling you these little packaged easy pick parlays
Well,
for a reason. So like do what you like, put your own stuff together. Don't just grab it off the shelf. It's like walking into the supermarket and you see like the ready-made salad there.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, oh, this is great. $6, $7 salad. I'm going to grab it. Well, for probably $6 or $7, you can make yourself 12 salads. So
I would amend your analogy slightly and say it's like the 4th of July combo that they prepare. You know, like their hot dogs and their buns or whatever. It's like, no, like if we just give this a little bit more thought, you know, the overall, it's like I thought about Bryson DeChambeau when you brought this up. I'm like a Prize Picks person, and like I hate those when it's like, this is Bryson DeChambeau. Nothing against Bryson, but like this is Bryson DeChambeau's play for, you know, the like Little League World Series. It's like, what is like you're not fooling anybody here. Like this is silly to me. So that's good advice. You know, shout out to the
don't eat the prepackaged stuff. Go and, you know, just you can squeeze a little money out of your bucks as long as you're, you know, putting your best foot forward and not just grabbing the ready-made stuff.
Right. Okay. And last one on this line, when you do a parlay, or selfishly, if someone hypothetically did Prize Picks or Underdog, do you have a limit on like from a quantitative standpoint? You're like, I don't want more than 4 factors, 5 factors, you know, going at once. Like at some point it becomes too improbable and I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it all depends on situational stuff. Like sometimes if you get a lead on, you know, bad weather, it could be something where the wind's down. So it's like, oh, I might start parlaying a lot of like kicking props and look for like 2-point conversion props. And then I'm folding those things in. And all of a sudden I have like 4 special teams props all worked together. But they're, you know, it's hooked to a certain, you know, data point. I usually cut it off at about 3 for me. I'm not a big game hunter. I'll look for like the value. Like I love playing. I bet a lot of WNBA in the summer. At least I did before I went on vacation. And you get, you know, like matchups and injuries and stuff like that it's not like NFL where you hear about it and it's baked into the number right away, or at least the market moves on it right away because everyone's betting NFL. You know, all of a sudden the starting center for the Connecticut Sun is not there, and they're playing, you know, a really good rebounding team that plays a high pace and shoots a lot. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to take their over on 7.5 rebounds, but I'm also going to take 10 plus rebounds, 11 plus rebounds, and ladder it that way, just based on the injury and the line's not really moving. So
that's exactly what I was looking for.
That's yeah. And those like niche markets, the value will hang around. NFL lines are the most efficient. They're the toughest to beat. They're hard. So if you can come out at the end of a Sunday and be up money, then you're doing okay.
I love that.
Very, very hard to do.
Well, I'll tell Bryson DeChambeau because he's in on this. You know what I mean? Like
he's you can come out of the Little League World Series.
Yeah, he's super plugged in on what's going on. Jason Logan, Dallas Cowboys betting previews out. And obviously, you're hustling and busting all over the place. Anything else you want to plug before we pull the plug on this one?
We're going to be back for another season of the Sharp 600 podcast. You can find that at covers.com. Myself and Todd Furman, who is a well-known betting analyst, worked behind the counter at Caesar Sportsbooks. He's now one of the sharpest sports bettors. Todd and I go back 20 years, and we have a lot of fun on that. So 10 minutes, I always say high protein, low fat sports betting content, and it's all NFL. That comes back very soon.
And you mentioned Fantastic Four. Anything else you've watched over this is our last stretch. Like if you're going to watch something, it's got to happen right now before football on every level comes back fully.
Yeah. I want to go see Weapons. I want to go see that, but my wife is not a scary movie fan. And so I'm like, I want to go see that. My son he was away at university last year. Now he's back for university, and we always would do a like scary movie haul come Halloween. So I'm starting to have that list now too. Like Silence of the Lambs is on that list. And I think we're going to do both It movies and Weapons maybe on that list as well too.
That's awesome. I'm really happy you have that tradition going. Right now we watch movies with AirPods because my son needs to sleep. And so I can't have anything too scary because it's like right in me. You know what I mean?
Sure,
it will attack me. So Jason Logan, thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks.